Hi, science kids. I'm Sarah from Sarah's Science. And we at Sarah's Science want to make sure that even though you kids are home, you still have fun science projects to do. So we've come up with several projects that we'll be making videos of, like this one, using materials that you probably have at home. And you can be creative sometimes if you don't have exactly the same materials that we have. So today we're going to make one of my favorite projects, tops, spinning tops, and they are actually optical illusion tops. So we'll make it, and I'll be explaining the science that goes along with it as we make it. So here's the materials you're going to need. First of all, you're going to need something to color with. It can be markers. I love these smelly markers. But if you don't have those, don't worry. You can also use crayons. You can use colored pencils. You can, use what you have at home. You can use regular pencil and still create optical illusions. So you need some markers or something to color with. You need some kind of glue because we're going to be gluing things on to the top. And I like a glue gun. Now you have to ask your parents for that, and the adults in your life, and you have to have an adult supervise if you use a hot glue gun because they get really hot. But I love these because it dries right away and you can immediately start making your top. You can also use plain white glue or a glue stick, but if you use those, you do need to let it dry before you start coloring your optical illusions. The other things you're going to need, you need some kind of stiff paper. I have cardstock that I use, but you don't have to have cardstock. If you have an old file folder, you can use that. I was even thinking when I was looking around, if you have an empty tissue box, you can make a circle on that and use the tissue box. Use the inside where it's blank. You also need, so you've got the glue, you've got some kind of cardboard or cardstock, and you also are going to need something to provide a handle for the top. I save these. If you have a water bottle or a soda or something and you have the cap from it, I save those. Those make a really good handle. But if you don't happen to have that, you can ask your parents if they ever have, or ask them to save maybe a champagne cork or a regular wine cork. And if you don't have that, maybe you have a straw. You can even use a straw as a handle. I'll show you one that I have like that. In addition to the handle, you need something to go on the bottom to help raise the top up a little bit from the table. It provides less friction that way. That's a good science word. I use buttons, but if you don't happen to have any buttons, don't just go sneak some buttons off your parents' clothes. If you don't have any buttons around, I've even used little beads if you have those. Just something that's kind of smooth that you can raise the top up from the table. So we've got glue, we've got a handle, we've got a button or something to raise it up, and I think that's the materials you need. Oh, you need scissors too. We find that tops work a little bit better if they're round, but it might be fun to experiment with square tops too. They do work, and you can experiment and see if round tops actually go faster or not. So you'll probably need a pair of scissors to do that. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to make one. So I already have this one cut out. I make these with my computer, and your parents might be able to do that for you. I use the program Word, and in Word, you go to Insert, and then there's a thing that says Shapes, and there is a donut shape that I use. And the donut shape, you can make any size, and you do need a printer to do this. You can make any size, and you can also, it always leaves the hole, I mean, it leaves a little circle in the inside. You can shrink down the circle on the inside so that you know right where the center of the top is. When I do that, if there's a little, I'll show you what this looks like. That's what it looks like when it comes out of the printer. And it has a little hole, a little circle there. And I use a pencil to poke through that hole so that I can see where the center is on both sides. If you don't happen to have a Word program or you don't have a printer, don't worry about it, because you can also make tops using bowls or any round shape that you're going to trace. So I happen to have a nice size bowl here. Okay, I feel a little like Julia Child now. There we go. Here's the bowl, and you can trace around it. Now, you're not exactly going to know where the perfect center of the thing is, so you just sort of eyeball it. That looks about right. I'm going to poke a hole in it like this so that I can see afterwards where that is and cut it out. I've already got one, though, here that's cut out. So now what we're going to do is put the handle on first. Let's use this blue one, and I'm using the hot glue. Always, if you're using a hot glue gun, put it on a paper towel or something, or piece of paper, so that you don't get hot glue on the table. So here's what I do. I use the hot glue and I smoosh it around so I get plenty of it on, and I put it pretty much right in the middle. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Then I turn it over and I get a button, and I find I burn myself if I try to get the glue on the button. So I just put a little dab of glue, a little dab will do ya, there in the middle, and I put my button on like that. And you might want to kind of get the little shreds off. So then you have your top, which is ready to be spun. There you go. And here is one that I already made that has a pattern on it. Hope you can see it that way. And whoops, you can see that it really changes when you spin it. Here it is before spinning, and look what happens when you spin it. It changes, and we're going to talk about why that changes too. So first, let's talk about why the tops spin so well. There's a great word. There's all kinds of great science words that I love to learn, but the word is called rotational inertia, and that comes from Newton's first law of motion. And here's what it means. Any object is going to keep doing, this is what inertia is, it's going to keep doing exactly what it's doing unless a force acts upon it to change it. So this little top is going to keep sitting there doing nothing unless a force acts on it. I'm the force that's going to act on it. And a force can be a push, a pull, or a twist. In science, the twist is called a torque. And so my muscles are providing the force to twist that, to give it a torque. But remember, it's supposed to keep doing exactly what it was doing unless a force acts on it to stop it too. So you have to think about what's causing this top to stop spinning. You probably already have some ideas. First of all, it's being pulled down to the earth by gravity, and that's a force that's slowing it down. Another thing that slows it down is just air resistance. It's moving through the air, and the air is slowing it down. And something called friction. Even though we put a button on to reduce friction, the rubbing, friction is the rubbing. It's the rubbing against the table in this case. Excuse me. So that's what's stopping it. You've got a few different forces acting on it to stop it. Now, I want to show you, before we talk about why these things change, I do have to show you a few of the tops that my grandkids made, because they're helping me. Here we go. This one is Sadie's. This one is Carson's, I think. And here is one. They have different kinds. Here's one of Jack's. I have 3 great grandchildren helpers. So you can see here's this one, and it changes. Oh, I saw Carson when he was making his. He was actually doing kind of spin art and was holding his pen after it was spinning to create little designs on it. And here's Jack's. You can see if it's not a real dark pen that you're using, sometimes you can't exactly, sometimes it's sort of, the pattern sort of disappears. So what is going on? Why do these things change just because I'm spinning them fast? Well, that is something to do with our eyes and our brains. We are creating an optical illusion. Optical has to do with the eyes. An illusion is what magicians do. They do tricks. So what an optical illusion is a trick of the eye. And here's how it works. I'll use this one for a moment. You can see there are dots separated all around here. And when you spin something or when something moves quickly, your eyes and your brain don't move quite that quickly, and that's something called persistence of vision. What's happening is your eyes and your brain are holding on to one image for just a fraction of a second, and then the other image comes really quickly and they blend together. So there you go. You can see these individual dots, they're separated, but when they're moving fast, because of persistence of vision, it looks like it's one solid band or line going around there. So that is a really fun thing to experiment with, to see all the ways that things change. You can literally, I could play with tops for hours, make optical illusions, and see how it changes. You don't have to be a great artist, by the way, because even Scribble Scrabble, here's my Scribble Scrabble, works and changes and creates an interesting optical illusion. It doesn't look like Scribble Scrabble anymore. So there. Now, another fun thing to do is you can, remember, your eyes and your brain can't quite go as fast as this top can go. And so what I've done is I created kind of a pie-like thing, and I'm alternating colors, blue and red. Maybe make a guess and think if you can think of what color might be blended when I spin this. Purple, because blue and red, when you mix them, it turns into purple. So you can have a lot of fun doing different kinds of colors that way. One of my science kids taught me this one, which I really love. Here, let me get some of these out of the way so you can see them. This one is just straight lines. I thought, oh, I don't know what's going to happen with that. And when you spin it, whoops, no more straight lines going that way. So that's an interesting effect. So at any rate, I think you now have lots of potential tops that you can make. By the way, if you do use a straw as a handle, it really has to dry well with the glue. Put a lot of glue on it, dries clear, and it has to dry well before you try to do it. But it can work quite well, because I want you to be able to do this even if you don't have the perfect materials. Part of the fun is finding materials. Maybe your parents will let you go through a hardware drawer or something to find materials to use. So, okay, I want to give you the science words that we've talked about now. And I printed them out. And let's see to make sure you can see those. Rotational inertia, that is what we talked about, Newton's first law of motion. When something starts moving, it takes a force. Something is going to keep doing what it's doing until a force acts on it. A force is a push, a pull, or a twist, or a torque. That's the science word for twist. We are creating optical illusions with this, and we're tricking our eyes, and we're doing that with a feature of our eyes and brains called persistence of vision, that we hold on to. We hold on to an image a little bit, and if another image comes up right afterwards, it blends with the first image. And by the way, we'll be doing some other fun projects like flip books and a thaumatrope that also use that feature of our eyes and brains, the persistence of vision, to create some interesting motion. So we hope that you've enjoyed this video, and we'll be doing lots more. And so we wish you the best of health and fun doing science at home. Bye.